beautiful day for another Big Five analysis. In this video, we'll be looking at Sooi, Solana, Ethereum, XRP, and Bitcoin. Not in that order. We're actually starting it off with Ethereum for today, and we're going to start off with a continuation of this long-term analysis. Ethereum has been one of the more interesting ones that it actually did hint at a bit of a breakout last week, closing above that white 200 moving average at 2,700 nearly, and putting in that move to 2,900. However, it was the weekly price action pivot that rejected this one right below 2,900, and as long as Ethereum is below there, especially on a weekly closing basis, it's hard to be getting like mega bullish for Ethereum, obviously getting back to, prior all-time highs. I mean, effectively, if and when Ethereum does get back above about 2,900, I would be extending targets for Ethereum. Effectively these highs from 2024, just short of 4,000, maybe even makes new all-time highs. Kind of unheard of for Ethereum, but I guess it is indeed possible here. Anyways, let's go through the list. I do want to go over the short-term for Ethereum, or the relative short-term, because it is back in a corrective phase as it did come back down below the short-term breakout region. Again, that 200 simple here, which is declining just below 2,700. So I am looking at this as to play out a correction for a little bit longer, perhaps dipping back down towards that green 55 EMA at 2,400. But still, that would effectively be a higher low, and Ethereum effectively has higher lows as long as it's above the Friday, the June 6th low of 2385. So as long as you're closing daily deltas above there, still hoping for Ethereum, still hoping for some, more prolonged upside perhaps as well. And while this does, I heard this is very, characteristics of Ethereum, just failing at the best possible fucking moment as always. Well, I would still honestly bet on a further continuation of the move to the upside. However, here's the major thing. The monthly time frame momentum oscillator continues to keep us safe here. As long as this thing is still positioned to the downside, Ethereum is within a corrective state on the higher term timeframes. And this one is not going to flip up this month unless Ethereum closes above 3,100. So, we still got another couple weeks left to go in this month. It's not over yet, obviously. But at this point, does Ethereum clear 3,100 by the end of this month, or does it open up June and this pivot comes down and Ethereum is effectively above it? If one of those two scenarios happens, that's where I'd say, hey, look for Ethereum to, get back to those prior highs. Until then, these are all just setups. These are all just possibilities, but they are not necessarily vindicated by, again, that monthly look, which has been, telling us to be very careful on this thing effectively since April of 2024. So over a year now. I mean, that's kind of fucking crazy. During that year, what did Ethereum do? It went all the way from 4,000 down to 2,000, then back to 4,000, then even lower to 15 or 1,400, and now kind of in the middle there. So yeah, anyways, I see that's actually put the sale code here. So that's probably my note to myself to say, hey, we have our sale going on, by the way, for the next couple of days with the code SUMMER20, exactly as you see on your screen right here, SUMMER in all capitals, and then just the number 20. You'll get 20% off of any one of the programs or services in the teachable link in the description below. And by the way, you can actually test almost all these out that are subscription based for 7 days for free. Figure out if it's for you or if it's not, and then you can apply that 20% off code if you do indeed want to stay on. And then while we are here, I do want to reference this 3-day time frame price action pivot. So I've been turning into a bit of a pattern boy recently, which is a drastic turn of events, but we can actually see that the price action pivots extension on these trend lines here is effectively forming what? A rising channel. These do have a higher probability to break out to the downside than the upside. However, it is not broken to the downside just yet, and just because it has a higher probability, it does not mean that it is a 100% certainty. Of course, it can flip back around to the other side and, put in an upside breakout. And I would effectively say that, hey, at this point, if you see Ethereum back above like 27.5, 2,750, then I think it's probably a foregone conclusion. You're going to see a breakout, deep into the 3,000s over time. But hey, as long as Ethereum is below there, I mean, I guess there is a real potential for this thing to break down again. You'd probably see the rest of the market break down as well, because a rising channel does have a higher probability to break out to the downside than the upside. But let's see what the implied target would be if it were to break out to the downside. And this is, by the way, being done on a 3-day time frame. So this one's closing tonight. If Ethereum does close below about 2475, 2460-ish region, 2465, then I would say, yeah, that does look broken to me. And, there is an implied move, and that'd be pointed all the way down towards 2100. Seems like a bit of a far cry for things right now, but if that were to happen, that would be my next sort of, I guess, general area of interest. Until then, I actually do have some hopium here for Ethereum, and you actually could indeed apply this potential implied move to the upside if it does reclaim the top side metric over here. And again, that's going to put you, just eyeballing it's going to put you into like the mid to deep 3000s. Anyways, yes. So let's move on now to Sooi. This is the new kid on the block, still following the old LARP lines here. So we don't really have like too much to update on this that already hasn't been said. We can see on the weekly time frame, it is actually morphing into what is considered a descending triangle here by the price action pivots, which again is a more bearish formation. Again, I actually think that these LARP lines are probably going to work something like this, but yeah, I mean, that would theoretically have a higher probability breakout to the downside. I personally don't think it's going to happen like that, or if it does, I mean, obviously bull market is like definitely fucking over at that point, right? Anyways, as far as the daily goes, the daily price action pivot is providing the potential breakdown area for the next move. So that is to say, if Sooi closes below this most recent price action pivot here at 288.5, very important, by the way, then I would be looking for Sooi to begin its descent at least towards 260-ish region. Maybe it drops all the way towards my LARP lines. These aren't supposed to be like one-to-one representations, by the way, but maybe back down around these lows that we saw from around April. Let's just call it like 225 to 240-ish region, somewhere around there. But I still think that things would honestly put in a pretty big and significant bounce from there. Does that bounce actually turn into a real reversal? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But just like Ethereum momentum to the downside on the monthly time frame, I would say the same thing for Sooi as well. As long as this momentum also is pointed to the downside, which it will be as long as Sooi is closing June below 420. Great number, by the way. I would treat this one with caution. No bull market or any bullshit like that being spoken about until that is very specifically reclaimed. Like no new all-time highs and all that sort of amazing stuff that is supposed to retire the bloodlines, right? Let's retire that bloodline. But someone brought up a really good point in the Discord yesterday. Retiring the bloodline can mean something very different to different people. For some people, it means that you made a shit ton of money on shit coins. Great, awesome. For other people, it means that you took a bullet to the dome and thus your bloodline is retired because they no longer exist, or future at least. Anyways, yes. So we spoke about that. Only way I'd get bullish on Sooi in the short term is if it popped back up above like $3.5. I don't think that's happening from here. Daily time frame momentum is turning down freshly below 326. 5-day time frame is also down as well below 388. 3-day time frame, I'm going all across the board here, but 3-day time frame is down below 369, which is closing tonight. Weekly time frame is freshly crossing down below 379 on Sunday. So I think you're going to see all these higher term time frames moving in the same direction. It's kind of hard for me not to see this one come down to like at least 260. Again, this can take some time though. It's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Probably not even next week. But this market can happen over the course of the next, month or something like this. Anyways, moving on, we got XRP, another fan favorite, I guess, or at least I see its name fucking spoken about very, very often. I want to start off over here with the 5-day time frame, just like the other ones referencing the price action pivots. I'm like going a little bit overboard with this indicator, but honestly, I think it's really good for YouTube because like it's super intuitive and noob friendly, and I like to keep the YouTube content more beginner friendly. Anyways, in this case, 5-day time frame, back down below the 5 and the 21 EMA, and also about to see 5-day stochastic momentum freshly turn to the downside, assuming that today does close below, because it is closing today, by the way, 243, which I think is probably a good bet. Now, because it is within this formation, which is, do you want to call it a symmetrical triangle? I don't think that this formation is honestly going to work out, just so you know. But the bottom side of this extended trend line here, I think does matter because it is in effect aligning with that last price action pivot boundary here at 206. If XRP does close below there today, which I do think it's less likely, to be honest. If it's going to happen, probably on the next period. So we'll update next week, obviously. But if that does happen, I'd still be looking for a move back down around about 190-ish, give or take 5 cents from that number. I mean, in general, we've been looking for corrective moves on these big five for the past few weeks. So, this market moves slowly during these times. It is summer after all, but it is happening. So just a little bit of patience here, I suppose. And same thing on this one for the monthly stochastic momentum oscillator. As long as the monthly stochastic oscillator is position to the downside, which got a fresh cross to the downside in June. treat this one, you know, as risk, or at least in my opinion, as risk. Like no new all-time high bloodline retirement conversations here. It's just exchange staff selling. Very, very dangerous. Very, very nasty. 282 is the number to beat for the end of June. It's a long month left to go, obviously. Where would I get bullish on Ethereum? On XRP. In this one, super obvious, just back above this past Wednesday's high, which is more or less the 200 simple. And also, what do you know? The price action pivot extended trend line right there as well. Yeah. Anyways, moving on now. We got Solana. Solana is becoming the most uninteresting of the bunch, or at least that's what it seems to me from, you know, perusing the comments of the community. And I just want to highlight here, the LARP line still more or less playing out. I really don't have too much to add on to that. I still think that this is generally the trajectory for the next, I mean, this could easily take another month or two. It is caught within a bit of a falling channel here as well. So perhaps it follows this down. But that also does give us an objective area of interest for declaring an actual breakout and a reversal in progress, which would be a closure above the top side boundary of this one, which it's nowhere near right now, to be fair. I mean, if it were to pop back up above there today, as I struggle with my words, very embarrassing, by the way, that would require a closure of like 164 and a half, 165. So call me fucking crazy, but I think that's a little bit less likely. Might just be me though. I don't know. Perhaps you have other ideas. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know how stupid I am in the comment section. I always really appreciate that as well. It's really nice. Anyways, as far as Solana goes, daily time frame. Let me bring up my indicators right here. I do want to acknowledge that daily momentum is turning freshly back to the downside as long as Solana is closing below 153 today. 3-day time frame also closing tonight continues down below 167. 5-day time frame, which also closed tonight, is continuing down below 173 and a quarter. Weekly time frame, which closes tomorrow, will turn down below 143.78, which it's not so far away from as of this moment. So, you know, I would express a bit of caution with this one as well. I think that it is kind of ripe here to continue, you know, the general trudge down, but there will be bounces along the way, obviously. But effectively, what I'm saying is that, look, as long as you're below about 160, I'm just looking at bounces as just that, bounces before coming back down and probably basing off of this lower boundary here, and that will naturally lead lower and lower over time. Just like I think it was Sooi. You know, I don't think that this one's actually gonna like fully break down. I think you do something like this on the LARP line. You know, maybe come down as low as 120. Doesn't necessarily have to get all the way down there, but I don't know. 120 to 130 sounds about right to me. Again, this can take multiple weeks, and then that's at the point where I'd say, hey, this thing actually does have a chance to put in a higher low here and break out. And I think if this market is still indeed bullish, you're probably going to see that happen, I don't know, around August. So this is naturally going to take some time. Anyways, last things last, I will put it up with Bitcoin on my other favorite indicator, the HPDR bands. I mean, these are my personal favorite indicators just because I have such a good relationship with them, but price action pivots are my new favorite ones just because, well, I think that they're like super intuitive and super friendly for newer people. But the HPDR bands here showing the closure from CME on Friday. So this is the weekly closure, like it's already set in stone for CME, is more or less a rejection of the 38.2 level. And remember, we are still looking for a reconnect with the median on this one because this one has been showing volatility contraction ever since late May. So this thing has been trading sideways since late May as well. And I'm looking at this one to continue to trade sideways until it at minimum reconnects with the median here. And that as of right now is about $98,500, a little bit below there to be fair. So perhaps we see a move like that on Monday. I mean, maybe these like war fears and whatnot get stoked over the weekend, possibly yes. Maybe Monday opens, you know, lower. You get a quick move down as people freak out, you know, in like the real trading week begins, and then maybe around Tuesday, Wednesday, things turn around. Like I actually don't think that this whole war is going to really be that serious at the end of the day, to be honest. I mean, obviously it's scary for those involved, and you know, my heart goes out to those who are involved on both sides, to be honest, because I really do understand that the Iranian people who have actually met, I've actually met like a good amount of. I had childhood friends who are from Iran. I know several people from Iran. Elsa's friends are from Iran, and they all seem to express the same thing, that they hate the fucking regime there. But that's maybe a topic for another video, or perhaps not even a video on this channel, because I should not get on that fucking topic. Anyways, yeah. My point is, things are probably going to be fine. And if I could give you some examples as to why that is likely, I would just point you back towards the last few war fears that we've witnessed, over the past few years. Obviously, you have the Ukraine-Russia thing, that did produce an initial major downside move, but it did also produce a nice base for a pretty significant bounce back in 2022 when it first started. We saw several things, light up when October 7th happened in 2023. We saw many things with North Korea along the way. These things happen all the time, and call me fucking crazy, but I don't think that this is going to be the one that goes nuclear. No pun intended. Anyways, as always, I am not just a financial advisor, but also a foreign relations and foreign or just military expert as well. Yes, indeed. So you can ask me any questions that you want. No, just kidding. Okay. If you're looking for that sort of information, get the fuck off this channel because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about there. All right. All I know is about lines on Magic Internet monies. That's it. And barely even I know that shit. So with all of that said, wrapping it up for Bitcoin here, I've basically been looking for a range between, for Bitcoin, somewhere around last week's open and the median coming into next week. I think it's going to be a pretty uneventful week. And I mean, an uneventful week can still be multi-$1,000 moves, but I don't think that we're going to see a major breakout nor a major breakdown. It's probably going to be a range play between those, maybe dipping a little bit below $100,000 in the interim. So yeah. All right. That's where I'll tie it off for today. As always, I want to wish everyone the best of the best. I want to say a massive thank you, by the way, for all the people sending me well wishes. Like it was really, really nice, really, really overwhelming. And I'm actually starting to really feel a lot better now as well. Still got a long road to recovery to go, but I think it's going to be fine, man. All right. That's your nice positive message for the day. Take care. Much love and see you hopefully Sunday.